Chernobyls. So 400 Chernobyls is a very, very conservative title for the article. As I dug into it, it was actually, because of the spent fuel ponds, it's more like 4,000 Chernobyls.
Okay, and we are going live right at this moment, so I just want to prepare all of you guys and just trying to get the logistics here happening. We have MT Keshe, we've got Richard Allen Miller, Matthew Stein, and Mike Harris. This is a very interesting and momentous occasion, I would say. MT Keshe is an Iranian physicist who has made some very important statements about the work he's doing with his foundation, and he can elaborate more on all of it, but we felt it was important enough to draw this group together. I'm hoping the people that are on the call with us, which Mike Harris does not have a picture, unfortunately. Mike, if you can drag a picture into your Skype, there's a place for a picture, and that would help people to know that you're online with us.
Okay, well, hang on a second. Let me see what I can do.
Okay, very good. And this is still, we're still just in the preliminary stages of getting this conference going, but this is basically about the statements that Keshe has made, and we're very interested in hearing more about what his plans are, and we'll see where it goes from there. First of all, MT Keshe, would you please talk about your background briefly for people that are not familiar with your work, just to set the stage a bit, and then we can go into whatever areas you would like.
First of all, thank you very much for arranging this talk. Secondly, I'm an Iranian nuclear engineer physicist. I'm educated in London, part of London University Queen Mary College as a nuclear engineer. The specialty I was trained to be is the reactor system control. And I spent more or less 30 years developing different way to create energy than what was accepted as a nuclear industry at the time. And in early 2000, we reached the point that we could prove gravity is created totally in a different way than what was assumed. We thought we'd never find out what gravity is. And replicating the structure of the entities like Earth or Sun, we have managed to create a system which not only creates magnetic field, what we call magnetic field, which is an atmosphere, and a gravitational field, same as pulling force, in the same system through development of the plasma and opening of the plasma. So this has given us a huge advantage and understanding of how universal systems like a solar system or an atom or a cell or a galaxy works. And the combination of this has been releasing of 2 patents, which has been left with the European International Patent. And we then opened it up that cannot be, what we call it, blocked, but is open to public. This is what we give as a gift to public, to world population, how to build systems like this and how to be able to do these kind of things. The consequence of further on has been the development of new energy system, which we are delivering this year as a mass production. The work on it actually starts tomorrow for full commercialization. On the other hand, we set up the Keshe Foundation, which is very much a foundation totally geared up to space technology, but space technology without fuel. The way we are used to with propulsion is at its time and it's finished. So through this process, we have launched different initiatives, and a number of countries and organizations, different countries have worked with us to develop or do things on their own way, but with the support of what we could deliver. I have a noise background somewhere, Kerry.
Okay, yes, yes, there is. If everyone who is not talking would do what's called muting your Skype. We do have some people, some movement in the background, and it would be very good because whoever is got that movement going on is interrupting the flow of the conversation. So we would appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, your last statement, Keshe, could you please repeat that?
So, yes, so what has happened, this new technology has led us to do new things, and the Keshe Foundation as a space institute, or a space-based technology, is that we see the responsibility of the foundation to look after every aspect of the interest of human being in the space, be it health, food, energy, motion, materials. And with
okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I have to interrupt one more time. We still have somebody who has their mic open and who is apparently got somebody working around in an area, maybe making noise. It sounds like banging or hammering or something. Does anyone have their mic open? If you could please do what's called muting yourself. Thank you. Go ahead again, please, Keshe.
So Keshe Foundation is literally a space agency, a spaceship, what we call program organization. And we look at every aspect of the need of man in space the way every other space agency does. With the difference that now we use the new understanding of the creation of magnetic gravitational field in a system simultaneously. And this has opened up new opportunities and new insight in the whole world of energy and space and motion. Further on, as a lot of people know, we pushed into our technology what we call the World Peace Treaty and delivering of the technology to governments last year through USB sticks with a hidden blueprint, designs. And now we were very much tied up with development of non-nuclear energy systems, which we have succeeded late last year. And as of beginning of this week of the new year, which starts tomorrow for us, we start the pre-production stage and hopefully the production stage in February, March. So what this has given us is that we have developed new materials, totally new concepts and technologies. Nothing is theoretical. Whatever we deliver, what we speak about, we have systems that we can replicate the process. What has happened in the past 14 days is I've been watching the situation in Fukushima very closely. The same as we watched the situation with Chernobyl. And I offered the Japanese government the support that we have the technology to be able to at least to support or curtail part of this damage. And we received no response in past year, as they haven't responded to anybody else. We are not the only one. So a couple of weeks ago, through what we understand, is that the Japanese government has, in a very between the what we call the teeth talk, has revealed that they are considering to dilute the millions of gallons of water in the tanks they built on the site with some other material or more water, and then dump this diluted, contaminated radioactive material into the high seas. And I thought enough is enough. So I put a call in that let's return the cesium back to Fukushima. And then that led to us now working and asking for cooperation of international atomic energy authorities to allow us to interfere in the situation or at least submit the technology, which we can do. And we have started communication with TEPCO and the Japanese government that this situation has to stop. Enough is enough if you don't have support. or if you don't have the technology, we have materials unknown, which we know we've tested. We are prepared to release the materials and the technology. And to support that, we have arranged to start teaching the Japanese and the farmers how to be able, in a very simple way, develop systems and technologies, very simple, what I call farming technologies, to be able to extract the cesium from the land. And at the same time, we offer the technology to be able to, extract the tritium from the waters in the power plant. We should hopefully receive some response from this week on, because the TEPCO was closed till today. They said they will respond to us. And if the response does not come, we have organized from 30th of this month to start what we call workshops. We already have, I do 1 or 2 workshops a month for time between 3 to 5 or 4 or 5 or 6 hours, which is organized by the people who are supporters of the foundation. And the 9th workshop, which is going to be on the 30th of this month, if we do not get a response from the Japanese government or international atomic energy authorities to be able to make a move to reduce the contamination, we will teach people how to do it. We have received a lot of favorable response from the Japanese community, and so we are on that next step of putting what we call a roadmap, how to bring the situation to an end. The technology is available, the materials are available to be able to do these kind of things, which was not up to now. In a simple way, I was explaining to the internet program and the conference organized a couple of days ago. And the whole situation is very much like when Saddam Hussein blew all the oil wells in the Kuwait oil fields, some 400 or 500 of them, and they thought it was going to take years to close it down, because it used to take that kind of months to drill a hole next to the pipeline and then mothball it and then they stop the fire. And out of nowhere, Romanians turned up with a jet engine reverse. They just blew the candle out and they could literally switch off a number of oil wells per day with a very simple technology. The situation now is the same. We don't need these sophisticated multi-billion organizations to extract the radioactive material from the water or from the land. Now we understand a new concept in physics, and that concept can help us to do it. We have tested the system and it's perfect. Okay, we have offered it to IA for independent investigation and TEPCO. And it only takes them a couple of days to just literally put the water in, contaminate the water, and drain the water from the top half or from the top of the container, and you'll find out that hardly any radiation left in the water. And it creates a residue which is working in that way. And then now we develop further that this material can be decomposed to like gases and cesium or whatever is absorbed to itself. It can be grown in different ways. It can be done in a liquid way, it can be done in a material way, and it can be done very much like what we call trolling, that it can actually absorb a lot of radiations around the power station. My belief is a lot of truth has not been said, which is usual in these countries, because even the governments do not handle it. Reactor 1, 2, 3 are totally gone. As somebody whose training has been system control of what we call the control room of the power stations, and I worked on a series of replacements of the PWRs of the United States, which is to be used in UK systems of energy production. We even 20 years ago planned to have the emergency system control some 3-4 kilometers away from the station. And with Fukushima, knowing what we know, as and I'm sure our colleagues on the forum understand, is that there is too much truth which is not being told. Huge amount of radioactive material has been released beyond imagination. They can't even imagine what is gone. I reckon, I think maybe 20% is in container one, in reactor one, maybe two carries the same. Three is not far behind, but when you look at the what you call the aircraft pictures taken from the side, my assumption is reactor 3 is in a critical, or most of its material is already somewhere between Japan, northeastern China, and North America. And part of it in the sea, because most of it has landed in the sea and is part of the ecosystem at the moment. So the situation is critical. So our position at this moment is we started talking to different organizations which can allow us to come in and do some work to show how simply a lot of material can be extracted. I think it'll take about 5 years to extract at least 50% of the material. The rest will be there for centuries. One of the biggest problems with the Japanese government does not tell people is that they're collecting a lot of topsoil in the farms around the power station in these black or blue bags. But every time it rains, more contamination gets washed onto these lands. What is the next topsoil will be taken 120 centimeters deeper? Where is the water seeping to? How much water is getting contaminated, which we know is quite heavy. I speak to the people who are very influential in Japan, and they say that they start using carbon filters in Tokyo because now the radiation has arrived in Tokyo in a very heavy way. So as I put on my blog yesterday, is that we have to look for a new state, to call it the state of Japan, because I think very soon, if in the Fukushima situation, which is very probable that will happen in the same station or nearby, there won't be any place for Japanese to live in unless they're heavily contaminated. And then that's beyond our control, and it is beyond our control as it is now. At least we can make some changes. So this is where we stand at the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. I have to say that there has been still sound effects in the background, and so need to go around the circle and see if perhaps, I don't know if it's coming from your end, Kesh, if you have anybody in the near vicinity that is perhaps moving around. But does everyone know, Mike, are you familiar with how you mute Skype?
Yes, I just had to unmute it to answer your question.
Very good.
So
okay,
I'll
that's
mute it
proof.
again.
No, thank you. And Richard Allen Miller, do you know how to mute your Skype?
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, and fine. And Matthew Stein, are you also able to mute your Skype?
Yeah, I just unmuted it so I could answer your question. Yes.
Okay, so it's
I think it's you, Kerry.
no, because I don't have anyone but me in the vicinity, and what I'm hearing comes out over the intercom. It's coming from one of you. So I don't know what to say other than perhaps we have some interference, maybe somebody
I'll do
listening.
that. I'll send down some time domain reflectometry. We'll get to it real quick, like.
Okay, I'm not sure what that meant, but great. So
A person bugging you will know exactly what time domain
okay, very good.
figure out right exactly where he is.
Okay, thank you. Yes, very, very good. All right. Well, at this moment, I'm sure that everyone has a number of questions. Richard Allen Miller, in light of hoping that you could understand and hear Kesh clearly, are there any particular questions that you would like to ask him? Because just let me say, Kesh, that Richard Allen Miller has become a very strong advocate for the cleanup of Fukushima, and perhaps you can also explain about your background, Richard, in such a way that he will understand why you might know something about this.
That's making some assumption. It's nice to make your acquaintance, sir. I know everybody else, but nice to meet you. I'm a little older than you. I was born in '44, and I studied with Penrose and Muses. My doctorate was in plasmas, in solids. And so I'm a solid state physicist with background in plasma physics. And I'm interested, intrigued. Are we talking about a proton boron fusion system? And or what kinds of mathematics would your new system be using so that I have some sense of where we're going technology-wise?
What was the assumption is that I don't believe in quarks and the rest of it. I believe plasma has a center core, a center source, which as it releases its magnetic gravitational field, or what we call the maggrav energy, in different strengths it become different things. In different strengths we call it maybe dark matter, dark energy. In the lower strength we call it matter. So the old plasma concept of plasma is totally meaningless to my work and the way in my 3 books which are published, I explain how it works.
Okay, I gotcha. It's been a long time for me. I'm in my 70s, so just interested in how, well, let me do this first. Lady Barbara Judge would be the person that I would contact if I were you in terms of TEPCO and working with that crew over there. She was recently appointed as oversight, and she's out of England, runs their energy commission there, and would be the person to contact. I left a link on how to contact her.
It would be nice if you could.
I'm sorry?
It would be nice if you could.
Yeah, I'm not understanding him.
Well, he's basically saying it will be very nice if you do leave him the information.
Yeah, okay, good. Yes, I did. I gave you a link there on Lady Barbara Judge. TEPCO has just recently hired her to be the oversight to the world. Really, this situation has got to stop. It's exactly correct. And even before we start even talking about cleanup, I think Matt would join me in saying that I think the most important thing now is that every single switch in nuclear energy is turned off. Every single one of those reactors are over 20 years old, and they're all leaking. They're old. That's why they want to build new ones. And that technology is not cheap. It's, it's certainly not clean. And I'm very concerned about how it's getting into the ecosphere, literally. We have enough indicators that none of us know how bad it is. And so what do? And watching the way the media has manipulated the movement of everything. You know, this latest thing from Turner broadcast on the poison gas forming out, it's why it's a wrong color for that, and actually it's just steam. But we did get nuked. We found plutonium particulate in Colorado and Arizona. So it happened. And it is here. And to how bad it is, well, a friend of mine has a Geiger counter that she fired up a couple of years ago, and the actual background count today is literally 3 times what it was 2 years ago. And this one little video on the beach where the RADCON level counts are up over 150 counts a minute, where normal baseline is around 35. So obviously we have a real problem. What do we do first? And I wanted to know more about this plasma device or gizmo or technology that you feel might be used for remediation. I did, by the way, Kerry, I did a study, and it turns out marijuana, hemp, will pull it out of the soil. However, you can't eat their smoked hemp. Of course, we'll probably put it on a crater in the moon or something, but that's probably what will actually happen. I think this whole concept of transnational corporations and how they're trying to usurp the sovereignty of individual countries is actually kind of scary right now. And that's why we have a media confusion while they get you to focus on Fukushima and they're doing something else behind the scenes that is giving up our sovereignty on cleaning up Fukushima. That's, I don't have an answer. I have a concern.
Okay, thank you, Rick Miller. Keshe, is there anything you would like to say to expand upon what you're doing to Rick Miller and the rest of us?
Yes, in a way, the part of the solution with our technology is that the materials and the systems which we have created or developed, they create their own gravitational magnetic field as much as they create their own atmospheric environment. So the gravitational field created in these materials attracts the nuclear components, whatever they could be, to the matter. And then we collect the matter from the environment, be it liquid or solid or whatever. One of the most important things which we rely on and we try to explain, and it's in the paper I published about 3-4 years ago, is that one of the biggest misassumptions has been that we cannot have gases at room pressure and temperature in a solid state, where we have proven it can be done and we have produced the material. And through the same understanding, we can create miniature conditions that materials in the environment can be attracted. So in reality, up to now, we only could make magnets, let's say, for iron or materials near iron. Now, with this technology, we can make magnet for anything. You want a magnet for a cesium, you can create it. You want a magnet for hydrogen, you can create a condition that it attracts only hydrogen by creating what they call it, gravitational magnetic field of that entity. So in that scale of work, it's not that hard. It's very easy. So what we plan to do is to be able to produce these miniature environments in the environments of the farm or in the liquid to attract the radioactive materials into a tangible entity that we can extract, and we know how to extract. We developed technology for extraction of our material, which the radioactive material is attached to it. The whole situation is, to me, is not reversible. I heard even recently that now they start digging holes to freeze the pipes, and then they're thinking of creating a huge freezer around whole power station of 6 of the reactors. And then they're going to freeze everything, which is in the news in the past few days. And they start the process of freezing. I just asked a simple question. That is, okay, now you go to the phase of freezing. This weather came up with freezing the ground and everything else. We can hold it. Can somebody tell us, if you're going to freeze these things, this ground, this whatever system you come up with, and you have another tsunami, you have another situation of earthquake, and you get a shortcut, or you don't have the energy to sustain this refrigerated condition, where all these frozen liquid ground contamination going to go? Back into the earth and back into the sea. The situation has gone from bad to worse and to ridiculous now. I don't think, I'm sure our friends on the panel can tell you, I don't think there is a solution to save Fukushima in any shape or form unless we go back to what we did in Chernobyl. Literally dump it in, but at the same time we don't know what is there to dump. And what is left to cascade it in? We cascade the top, what's underneath of it, how much deep it's gone to. What is kept? Nobody knows. Nobody has seen inside these reactors actually with the fuel melted. So the situation is very critical, and a lot of people who have not been or are not in the nuclear industry don't understand what these terminologies mean. So what is my concern is that now with this freezing, which they have started in the past week or so, is going to get 100 times worse. They couldn't hold the reactor. They couldn't hold the control room. They cannot even hold the reactors that are in the adjacent buildings. They don't know what to do with them. And now they're going to make a big, huge freezer around the power station. How are they going to sustain it? How long? What happens if you get a power cut and everything defrosts? Where is the whole the contamination which you let come into this new contaminated area that you think you're holding is going to go? We're living on a hotspot, earthquake zones. Nothing can hold. Doesn't matter what they come up with, can hold this leakage. But the situation is not what it is. It has to be. It has to be in a way, as I said in my forum today. We can offer a temporary bridge. The full solution in 10, 20 years' time can be found. The situation with it's you haven't found contamination in America. There is the same contamination in Northern Europe. They have stopped all the maps to show where the contamination is and what level now in the past 12 months. We used to have on our forum daily, actually minute by minute, of the flow of the radiation from Fukushima. They have dismantled all these links. Anybody who tries to do it is being stopped or has been blocked or somehow it's been interfered with. I think there is most of the contaminated material carrying cesium and the rest is sitting within the first 200-300 kilometers in the ocean, because when the thing blew up, it hasn't just gone in one direction. It's if you open a firework, it blows in every direction. And now we see different type of fish approaching or reaching the west coast of the United States. I read reports even in West South America they're coming up with a new kind of diseased fishes. All this material is not just farming lands. I'm sure Chinese are holding huge amounts of information back because they don't want to create panics in northern China and northeastern China, because the wind has taken the whole thing up. It's not very far. And on the second hand, or I should say on first hand, this explains a lot of new military maneuvers and security and secrecy acts which are coming up very rapidly with different governments in that area.
Okay, well, Keshe, thank you for all of that. It's very interesting information. I want to stop you here because I would like to address what exactly you think is going on here, and why people are, and you know, energy activists and people like yourself are being stopped from repairing the problems, not only with Fukushima, but with the other nuclear reactors around the world. We certainly know that there are a number of them on the New Madrid Fault that are very vulnerable at this time. I know that Matthew Stein could speak to that. And there is San Onofre in Southern California, which has been shut down within this year. And there are numerous others. I think Hanover, is that the name of the one that you also mentioned, Rick Miller?
No, that's Hanford. Hanford is where they make the weapons-grade plutonium. That's what it was all about. The reason that Fukushima is going downhill in a handbasket is because they had way too much plutonium being stored, spent plutonium rods. I think they were doing weapons-grade plutonium there as well. But Hanford is the one that's leaking in the Columbia River. And there is now some belief that probably that's what's poisoning off all the shellfish and other things that we're seeing as anomalies along the West Coast. Fukushima is due any time, but if the models I've seen are even half correct, it's way worse than anybody's been led to believe. And my big question is, why the cover-up?
Right. So
I think, can I say something?
yes, please do.
I can speak in wearing 2 or 3 different, what do you call it, suits. First of all, as someone who knows the structure of the nuclear reactors, or I think I do know, the type which is in operation now, because for past years, past 10, 20 years, we haven't seen any new one being commissioned, is that the old reactors, or what I call the present PWRs, have a problem. We knew it in 1990s. And the problem is, and it's something which what we call, when I was, one of the first things I was taught by my teachers in running a reactor, because the university had its own reactor, and I used to spend time on it. My tutors taught me one thing: how to bypass systems, because shutting a reactor costs a fortune. So one of the things I learned in 2 years of working on the reactor is how to bypass without setting alarms. And this is one of the major problems with a lot of power stations at the moment. What happened? Operators know how to bypass faulty positions or faulty keys or faulty whatever, not to show. But when the system goes to a point that too many things are bypassed, then when something goes wrong, nobody knows what has been bypassed. The simple example of this, when we used to run the reactor for critical condition to test for leakage from the reactor, it was very easy. We had to put the slabs back, close, make sure all the contacts are in, that it would allow us to build up the power. What we did was very simple. A LED bar with a tape on the switches. With the top bar open, we could run as much tests as we like without ever shutting down. And then we could see critical position was some of the place in different parts of the reactor, get a bit bent and twisted because the heat was getting built up, and we overrid the whole thing. As far as the reactor was concerned, it was shut, it was operating with the doors closed and everything else. Most of the problems now, it's so expensive to do these repairs that the owners of these power stations allow this bypass conditions. That, okay, we'll have the money to do the repair later on, or we do it later on. But then 2 or 3 things add up together, and then the later on is too late because already it's too late to do anything. And this is one of the biggest crises. Secondly, is governments are hiding things. They don't hide because the people in the government are not nuclear physicists to understand the problem. This is the biggest problem. There are a bunch of advisors who might have a theoretical physics. They've never even seen a single reactor in their life. They've been taken to be shown, yes, go, but ask them how it operates. They don't have a clue. How can they make decisions when they are not? The position of power, especially in the nuclear industry around the world, is in the hand of a bunch of mechanical, thermomechanical, electrical engineers. So this is another problem. The third thing is the secrecy. The problem is so big that if they don't keep it secret, you have nothing to answer to your population. People will gather around the power station, they sit there till they shut down. But then you tell people the price of the fuel, the energy is going to go up, then they want it below the price. So at the moment, there is a huge crisis, one which is hand in the other thing, and the whole thing is leading to a position we are in. I very much agree with Richard regarding the plutonium containment. What has been very strange is why such a huge runaway condition so fast in 3 reactors next to each other. One of the reasons which I go back why Japanese government has brought these very rapid secrecy conditions that nobody can talk is someone is going to blow the whistles how much plutonium has been in these reactors.
You know, that's a point I would like to reiterate, however, that before we even want to do the blame game, because that's what they're doing now from the disinformation point of view. I have no idea who's at fault right now. What I do know is that everything needs to be turned off now, and that everybody listening to the show tonight has to become active, or it isn't going to happen. This is another example of transcontinental companies, corporations that are bigger than companies, trying to run the news and media.
Can I say something to you? Please read what I put on my blog on my phone yesterday. These directors, these multinationals, these board of directorships, whoever they are, whatever they are around the world, they do not live in underground bunkers. They have children, they have families, they go to the parties, they go swimming in their private swimming pools, they go shopping in the open air, and they are getting contaminated themselves and their families as the rest of the people.
You're absolutely
right.
right.
They have to become aware that it's not them anymore, it's us. This is where the turning point will come.
Well, let's take a little side note here, because
this is Mike Harris.
Is a problem.
This is Mike Harris speaking. Please identify yourself before you speak. Mike,
go
ahead.
Carrie, this is Mike Harris speaking. But let's take this Fukushima problem as an opportunity to start a global movement to power down every nuclear reactor that we have, and let's find collectively, as a race, as humanity, as the human race, how to dispose of this material in a satisfactory manner. I don't care if we have to launch it into space and shoot it into the sun to destroy it, but we cannot have these toxins, these poisons that will be around for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, if these things go sideways on us, if we lose control of them. And I really think it's time for criminal prosecutions of the boards of directors of these companies who are doing these things, who are poisoning the entire world. And it's time to take these people out and make them pay the price. And humanity should not need to suffer, and we should not need to lose human life because of their malfeasance and their mismanagement and their basic human greed. But it's time to power down all nuclear reactors worldwide, and it's time to spend our effort into developing the new energy technologies that we all know exist out there.
Absolutely. Well, Keshe, this sort of launches us into the next sort of part of this conference, which is to address the other statements that you made in your very powerful statement on the first day of this year, 2014. You have made a number of statements that you will bring this kind of technology to the people by the end of the year. And so at this time, I would like you to talk about the other statements, because they were quite far-reaching, and the indications are that you do have technology that has the ability to get rid of world hunger, for example. You also spoke of getting rid of war and having clean water being a very, very free clean water, being a very important resource to humanity, in total, and certainly clean air and so on. So you made these statements. You've put yourself and your foundation on the line. Do you want to address what motivated you to make these statements and what you are planning?
The thing is, I have not put myself or my foundation on the line. We have announced the development of these technologies in the past 4 or 5 years. This is not something new we are going to do. For those who do not know where I stand and where my research goes to, we have developed our space technology lift and weight reduction without fuel. As you know, I collaborated closely with the Iranian governments for the development of their spaceship program. And the Iranian government is the only organization of a space country speaking about a spaceship program. A spaceship program is using gravitational fields, magnetic fields, without burning any fuel in the interaction of the plasma to create condition in respect to a position where it allows you to make motion. Secondly, what we announced about the Fukushima is that we have the technology to do it. It's one of the first statements for January we made. In respect to the second part of the stopping the wars, in our position, in our technology, we have the knowledge and the know-how to create condition that makes literally any aircraft carrier, any aircraft on flight position or stationary to become literally useless. I made this very clear. That's why His Excellency President Obama made a direct attack on us in 23rd of April of 2012. That later on, on the 9th of, on the 6th of November, we received a request from the American embassy in Brussels for our technology USB stick to be handed to the American government that they could have what is in the hand of Russians and Chinese.
Can I ask you a question? Do
Yes.
you believe that that event in Iran was related to the similar one that some conspiracists have suggested regarding Japan?
Which event? Which event?
Well, the meltdown. Didn't you guys have a meltdown over there? I thought you had a software problem that happened.
Stuxnet. We're talking about Stuxnet, which is
You are going on the line which I'm not involved in, and I do not make a comment on behalf of the Iranian government or Iranian nuclear industry. I am involved in the plasma part of the nuclear, the heavy materials and power generation side has nothing to do with my work. I know quite in depth about it, but it's not my place to make a comment about this thing. We got to realize that even though I've lived in Europe for nearly 40 years, I'm still an Iranian citizen. I carry Iranian passport. I never changed my nationality. And I'm on the same kind of conditional embargoes as the Iranian nuclear physicists around the world. So I cannot answer you in any shape or form in that regard. But what is important is that I work with the other side of the scale, which is totally plasma. And you can create energy with a plasma in a very easy way. As Kerry knows, or maybe you have heard, we had to take exile in Italy because of the pressures from the Belgian government. They tried to force us to stop the research in different ways. I was told by the head of Belgian nuclear, agency, to leave the country 3 months before last year. And I was told the world is a big place, why don't you leave the country? And as you know, when we stayed, they tried to do all sorts of assassination and harassing and beating up my wife and the rest of it. And that's why now we're in Italy. And on the other hand, we now, to bypass this nuclear trap that any scientist is pushed to say that they are working with a nuclear and it's illegal, we have developed a non-nuclear energy and motion reactors, which means I don't need to use any nuclear material. The way they came to my lab and they confiscated my, my nuclear material, and then they left it me. I was such a bad nuclear scientist and Iranian nuclear physicist that they left my nuclear materials, sealing it and leaving it in my lab, which is very ridiculous. So this situation is beyond understanding at the moment. So what we've developed now is a non-nuclear reactor which operates within the realm of power of the nuclear energy. So we produce energy with the same energy. We create a condition very much like Earth, which has got a magnetic gravitational field simultaneously in the reactor. In one of our videos, especially we shown with non-nuclear that we reduce the weight from 18,300 kilogram to 16.2 kilogram in matter of few minutes in the lab in the presence of a number of witnesses and scientists and engineers. And now we have proven energy can be built, but the reality is now We can literally put one of these systems in any position and in a way change the crystal structure of the microchips in any aircraft or ship. So we don't harm nobody. We don't harm no person, no being. All it is that the microchips become useless in any computerized system, being a jet, being an aircraft carrier, being a tanker. So it's very easy now, and this technology is not only in my hand. The Iranian people are much cleverer than me. They're much ahead of me, most probably. That we don't need to attack any further. When we say we stop the factories making arms, it's two things. We allow you to help us to help the situation with Fukushima and other places which is happening. If we can help some 200 million people who are affected directly by this Fukushima, then we have enough business not to think about the war, because the factories will turn their position in producing peaceful materials than actually war materials. And if need be, the technology is in our position, we in our position, and we can show it. We don't harm nobody. We just create the change of the carbon in microchip. This is a clear message to world leaders who listen to my talks. I know a lot of them do. Not being arrogant, because of the responses we get from their governments, so we know they're listening. In a microchip, you have carbon cover products, plastics. And the way you can change characteristics of carbon from an insulator to a conductor, we can do this in a very simple process with the microchips. So whatever was supposed to be insulated and not send information will send the information, and the chip is totally useless. So this is a clear indication to governments where exactly the next attacks on on the peace of mind of human being has to be. The attack on us will not solve a problem. Attack on you scientists will not solve a problem. It has to be a collaboration. We are very clear in how we can disable all military machines, being from satellite to aircraft carriers to even automatic machine guns which carry a chip in them. You just create from hundreds of kilometers away a condition that you change the crystal lattice of a carbon which all these microchips carry as a cover to a conductor. Then you now understand the whole aircraft has to be rewired, and you now try to rewire so many F-18s and F-16s and tankers and the rest of it. There is no need for economical embargo. You just stop 10 or 20 ships in any of the high seas carrying fuel or containers. You send your message to, and this is not what we are planning to do. Our plan is very simple. Let's work together. Let's sort out this Fukushima situation is beyond belief. If the information we receive and we have and we know, let me put it this way. You had 60-odd sailors, which we know, you most probably know about it, have spent a few short time on the power station for a few hours or whatever in 2011, and they're all reporting cancers of different kind. Now, the number of people who have been exposed to the radiation in different parts of the station, which runs into thousands, and the farmers, the healthcare for these will surpass the cost of bringing the station under control. The situation is getting bad to worse, not just on the station, on the health-wise. And the problem with the Japanese is that nobody speaks their language. Even they try to bring nurses from Philippines and Thailand, they have a problem of the communication. The country does not have enough health care to look at the number of people who have been contaminated and with the diseases and the cancers which are upcoming within the next 3 to 5 years. So who's going to carry this burden of health? People in the West. They can cover up the reactors. They cannot cover when thousands of people literally die of cancers and all sorts in different parts of the country. Secondly, the same situation has moved out because when the wind took the hold of this nuclear material at the time of the explosion, because of the situation with the tsunami, it's gone to North China. Chinese are now reporting how many people they have contaminated. Chernobyl, 1986. We are in 2014. There are lands in North Wales in England which were contaminated in that accident, and by English law cannot be farmed or allowed any animals to go on them. That's nearly 20 years later, just on the statistics from the British government. We have received so much through rain and fallout from Chernobyl on the North Wales of British Isles that after 20 years, the government is not giving a clearance for any animal to be fed on these lands. Now go to China. How many people are contaminated in China? West Canada is worse. They got worse fallout than anybody else from the upper levels. So the situation is not just Fukushima. Now the healthcare will be beyond the damage of the Fukushima physical situation.
Okay, very, very good point, and important point. At this time, do you want to discuss you have a number of things that you're going to work on in you've got February, you've got in June, you've got these certain times when you've said you're going to release certain things. Are you confident that you will be able to do so at those times?
First of all, in our outlook is very clear. We have started the work regarding Fukushima. If it's not arrived, or we can't come to collaboration with any of the organizations, we have already agreed. We announced the 9th program. It's on my forum. If you go on the forum, it's already been announced, and the 9th public workshop will be held on 30th of this month. So we run the workshop directly from our lab, and we show live, which is how we always do our workshops. We know for past 8 workshops, which we run 1 a month, and how people can make materials to absorb radiation from the water and land in Fukushima. And the response we're getting from Japanese bloggers and Japanese readers, because we sold a lot of books in Japan, is that they're getting ready to understand and translate everything to Japanese for the Japanese farmers to do. Then this goes the situation why we are talking to atomic energy authorities. Okay, we capture these things, we can absorb and separate these nuclear materials from the ground. But how we're going to handle it and who we're going to give it to. So it goes back to TEPCO, to Japanese government, and to international atomic authorities to find a way to solve this problem. In respect to February, we are opening an institute. We are teaching a hand-picked number of scientists from around the world, which are coming to Italy, in how the whole technology works, and they have to workshops on a weekly basis, teach hundreds and thousands of people on. So by the end of this year, we will reach, we estimate, over 2 to 3 million scientists around the world directly on a workshop basis. So it will be done on the Skype, it will be done on the, the Streamlines and the rest of it, which our webmasters are working on. The June target of stopping the military is partially due to what's going to happen in January, and partially if it's not happened, we need the material to help the other people. So there are 2 choices. We go back pushing the factories back into position of producing material, or we show the power of the technology. Showing the power of technology is extremely simple. Then there are 2 positions left in how we're going to organize and how the governments are going to react to this situation of new technology, which is so effective and can deliver what it says. The problem is that there's a lot of negative information by 2 or 3 people, but on the 200-300 names, has been put on the internet. These people have been paid to put negative publicity about the foundation. We know who they are. We know exactly, even we know what they eat for lunch. Put it this way. So what is not important? These people they have paymasters to discredit, but discredit doesn't work because if, for example, in our healthcare, if you can stop ILS and reverse it, and somebody is going paralyzed, put him back to work to travel in 2 different cities and be back in full-time work after 4 months, which ILS is a dead machine, and now with the new system we can repeat it. We put more videos of new people on the YouTube to show it can be done. Then we have the technology to do a lot of things to force the situation. As I said very simply, with the new plasma technology understanding we have because we've done it, how much gold do you want me to put in the Central Reserve Bank of Libya that you want to go on empty every day, every night? You tell me how many tons of gold you want in any central bank, we make an arrangement to be produced for you. Because now we understand the physics in a different way. This is not theory, this is because we've done it. We know how to do it. We make protein out of fresh air. We know how to do it. I have shown this to the people. My labs are open and become open to world scientists. From 15th of February, we have scientists from 10, 15 different nations who are coming to us to be taught that they can start the teaching to the others. These labs are open, whatever has been done. The position with the weight reduction, there were a professor from Italian, team of Italians were present in the lab when we achieved the condition. So this is not something which has been hidden. We were forced to hide a lot of things in Belgium because of whatever reason in the government against us. In Italy now, we work with a team. We have opened our labs. They come anytime they like to give me half an hour notice, and they come in and they want to test something or change the reactors or change the parameters of the reactors. It's open. And I said, if we have opened our doors to the Italian scientists, now we open it to the world. And now from 15th of February, we open it to the world. These people will teach how to make, what they call it, protein, how to make food, how to create a clean water. Clean water is very simple. It's the most simplest thing to do. When we say free water for everyone, we are not going to dig into the ground. No. The cycle is that the most driest point in the world has 15-20% moisture. So what happens in the upper atmosphere? Moisture becomes cloud, rains down. In these systems, because we know gravitational magnetic field positioning, we can extract moisture from anywhere in the universe on this planet. So whatever you need, clean water, even the waters which we have absorbed, we have seen contamination in absorption. So we have to develop certain things. We have shown in connection with scientists from University in Belgium that we can grow seeds with 6 to 10 times increase in harvest with registered seeds, which the characteristics fully known by the international seed producers. And the only reason is the seed is growing like this is because the material which we caught the seed prior to growth creates a gravitational magnetic field that absorbs as much moisture as it needs from the environment, and it absorbs as much nitrogen it needs from the air. So the seed absorbs huge amount of moisture and nitrogen at the same time, which is a fertilizer. So we are not doing miracles. And so when we say we give free water in the latter part of this year, it's because we know what we are doing and it will be done. It's very simple. And then it goes to the agriculture and the space technology. Once we open the 3 levels of science to do with the energy, which is we said our reactors for energy will be start delivering in March of this year. Hopefully we are on target. Then you can see the motion is on the same basis. So what we are saying, we are very much on target, and it's not something new. It's something we talked about for years now. We're delivering it physically.
Okay, at the moment, we can wrap this up. We have been going for about an hour and a half. I'm going to look through the chat quickly to see if there's, and if you do have, I don't have any assistants with me today. So if you have a question and you have a burning question you want to have us answer, could you please put it in caps, in all caps? It will make it much easier for me to see it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask if again, anyone wants to address how perhaps the oil industry, certainly the nuclear industry, how they feel that there may be pushback from these organizations with Keshe. There has been, at least from my end, Keshe, a very strong indication that there are organizations that do shut down free energy inventors whenever they come up with new technologies. And so you yourself are in that category. I'm wondering if you feel that because of your sort of stature in the world that you will be able to bypass this kind of interference, or what you feel might go on.
You know, as you know, Kerry, when I got arrested in Toronto airport, and I was held in the airport for 11 days and interrogated for about 18 hours a day for over a week, and I was told, and my family was told, if the press found out we arrested him, we got him, he's going to be killed. I realized I've got something in my hand important. Otherwise, Canadian government and the instruction of the Prime Minister of Canada would not take such a risk to catch the Iranian nuclear physicists on transit through international airways. So we know our position, we know where we are, we know where we stand. And it became more apparent in my meeting with the what I call resigned King of Belgium. When he was a king, in a private meeting, he was explaining to me exactly why a king has to come and meet with you in a remote outbacks where you're writing a book. There must be something in what you do that is bothering them. But in fact, as I said to when he was a king, when I met him about a year and a half ago, the ex-king of Belgium, was the reason that you want a scientist at my level out of your country, even though my wife is Belgian. We understand the heat, we understand the pressure, but the reality is that all these multinationals, when there's nobody left to sell products to, who are they going to produce and make more wealth? They can become richer as long as there are people alive. So this is the dilemma now, which is coming to a point that everybody is becoming aware of. They can become multinationals. They can become as rich as they like, as long as they are customers. One of the interesting things which I had the pleasure of listening to was when I was asked to go to Iran to develop the Iranian spaceship program 5 years ago, or 5 years ago now. It was made clear to me that as a major oil-producing nation, Iran knows there's a limitation and there's a limit to oil. So these people try to stop the alternative energy, but at the same time they know the next money will come from alternative energy. Sure. At the moment, it's very cheap. You bring some stuff out of the ground and then say, okay, now it's $100, $150 per barrel. Very soon, the next step with these energy systems, which people like me and other scientists are developing or have developed, is that the government will make money out of these situations, these systems, the way now they're taxing the cars. Without taxation, we can't run the countries. But the only thing is going to be left out is how much, who's going to produce, how much they're going to value these systems. On the other hand, the way, as I've written in my website this morning, we are offering the boat which Noah made. There will be just a few people who can escape this planet the way we are going. We know that the British started shutting down the nuclear reactors some 20 years ago. They stopped training first-degree engineers in England because they knew everything was agreed to be done by the Americans. And now all the research is going, what we are shutting down, how to get rid of the contaminated materials. The biggest problem is now in the nuclear industry is how to handle the aftermath of this using these systems. It's going to cost a lot. But on the other hand, all the oil countries and oil producing nations, they know they need and they should sit on an alternative energy source when people cannot afford paying for them anymore. And at the same time, we're going to run out. Secondly, as a Keshe Foundation, we have not found or does not offer a solution for pharmaceutical, for energy, for space. We are developing a system based on the way the universe works. As I always say, we don't see no wings on this planet, and we don't see any jet engines attached to this planet or any other star or planet in the universe. It's been rotating for billions of years. It's been releasing energy for billions of years. It's been keeping a steady position because of the magnetic gravitational field it produces with respect to the sun. Now we have discovered this technology of the universe. How are you going to make money out of it is your problem. But as I always say, now that we have opened the space to you and we are going into space, and I brought it over to 2014. We initially planned to do it to 2018. Now we brought it forward. Let's say we come across the aliens. How many tons of gold can you sell to the aliens? Nothing. This financial commitment which all these multinationals are making is literally worthless. It doesn't worth anything because outside the boundary of this planet, all this gold has no meaning because people who are managed to take into space, they already know how to create materials. Now we are learning how to do it. How much gold do you want? I can create the magnetic gravitational field of the energy of the gold and create the condition that it changes from energy to matter. We've done it. We've shown it. Even in past 4 months, we've shown that reactors gaining weight by 20, 40, 60, 80 grams every day. Day on, not by accident. And it's all videoed. So now the question is, does this money work to anything? All this killing and all this manipulation of humans, is it work? We have to work for our living. We have to be positive, working, adding something to the society just because we're alive and we stay healthy for it. But this situation of energy companies, people in my position, they have made a few attempts on killing me. Up to now, I'm still here. I've been put on exile from one nation to another. I've been done all sorts of things in past 10 years. It's well documented on the internet. So much so that whatever I say I've done with such a nation, we have not seen a single foreign office, the national government, denying what we've said, what we've done with them, and what achieved with us. Because we have documents. Everything is documented. Everything is in position. How we managed to create hydrogen out of Coca-Cola bottle, which cost Americans billions to develop, and I do it for less than 1 cent. It's just because the development of the knowledge and the science. Do they want to kill me? The reason why. How, as a guy, one of the top guys in the World Bank told me, says, it'll take us hundreds of years to come to across somebody like you who can connect lines and give us some little bit more information than before. We are not here to destroy it. As I said recently in the interview with Alan Sterling Allen, I keep on putting his name back to the front, these head of organizations, the pharmaceuticals, who are the leading research organizations on development of medicine for cancer, these directors and their families and their sons and their children and their parents are dying from a cancer. If they are so good, why don't they have their own blood? So it means they haven't found a solution. We need to look at everything in a new way. And the new way shows us there are opportunities. That's why we have opened our cancer research where we developed for the space. My ethos has been in the space, as everybody knows. We can't take all the doctors and the medicine. Now we're developing one system which can be adjusted for each disease. So we have seen how we walk away with LS. We've seen the new series of developments, how we can stop the cancer progress, how we can help the pharmaceutical companies in reducing the side effect of chemo. I've released the papers on my website about it. So all these guys, even your president, Excellency President Obama, is not immune from the radiation fallout of the what do you call it, Japan. Him and his children go for a baseball. They go for a walk in the park. The contamination is in their shoes, in the dog they have, the clothing they color the children with. It's all contaminated. They swallow it. They are the next candidate for cancers. Is there a solution? Does the health has a solution? No. So we are offering it in a limited way. We bring other scientists to do it.
Okay, but has Obama tried to speak with you?
Ask him. We don't disclose things, but ask him. As you know,
okay,
because it's already been disclosed, we have received a private letter in response to the World Peace Treaty from His Excellency President Obama. Very private, is not they know what it is. It's a 2-page letter, which is they are watching what we are doing. They are correct. There are certain things cannot be done by certain nations, and there are certain things we have to be. I've asked through the same channels which we have. I have personally requested His Excellency President Obama to interfere between Keshe Foundation and TEPCO to allow us to go in. We wait for the response, and I'm sure the White House will make a decision one way or another to respond to us on facilitating the background that this thing can take place. And I've informed the same, I spoke with the people in IAEA in Geneva. We hopefully have a response from them this week. They will get first clearance from Washington. You know, if you go on Sterling Allen interview I gave him about a month ago, in that interview, I didn't put it out. He mentioned the name, and then he has put the edited version and the original version on his website. In that interview, he mentioned who, through Sterling Allen, we spoke to in NASA, and NASA invited me to go, and NASA did every effort to get me to the American embassy in Brussels to issue me a visa, to give a lecture and show them how the new technology works in NASA propulsion lab in a state. And Washington directly interfered, not to allowing, it took them, 4 or 5 months, even NASA called the embassy, directly intervening to issue the visa for me to give a lecture. And Washington just put a foot down. No, this Iranian nuclear physicists at this moment cannot come to the United States to teach us what they do while we are boycotting Iranian nuclear industry in Iran. Now this peace talks might open the channels, but in fact, now NASA is 30, 40 years, maybe more, behind the space technology. Propulsion is obsolete, it's finished. As you know, when there was a crisis with the space station, we offered our technology to be able to bring it down safely. It will cost them months of preparation. It takes us 10 minutes of flight arrangement landing. We are very advanced. We are very advanced, and as a lot of people who work around us know, the beauty with us is we are open about it. And we are not covering just one thing. We are not an energy company. We cover the whole aspects of the space technology in a different format and different shape. The way the universe works, not the way the man has used fuel. Using fuel is finished.
Hey, Carrie.
Yes.
This is Mike. I'm going to have to be signing off here pretty quick. Keshe, it was very nice meeting you, and Matt, very nice meeting you as well. I hope to maintain the contacts, and hopefully we will stay in touch. Okay, guys?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you all very much.
For joining us.
Say goodbye to me.
Because, Rick, you live right up the road from me. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, at this moment, we do have to shut this down. I noticed some of the questions from the nature of some of the questions that were cropping up in the chat, that some people do not seem to be able to understand the fact that Keshe is saying, yes, they have the ability to clean up the fallout from the nuclear spill at Fukushima, and also deal, I guess, with the plutonium there as well. He is going to be offering and has offered this to the Japanese government and is trying to communicate with them. And I believe you're also speaking to TEPCO. Richard Allen Miller has given him a very important contact who is head of, I guess, in charge of this matter, Barbara Judge, who, if people will go back to my interviews, who will see that Jay Widener and I have discussed her and her nuclear. They have many nukes that can power places like Dulce and other underground bases for many, many years. And so she is a person who's been given this, is in charge of this sort of thing. So we do expect Keshe to be able to make a lot of progress. Obviously governments have been keeping an eye on what he's doing and pushing back. I don't know where it'll go from here, but we do need all the attention of the world on this matter at this time. I think that has been made very clear in this interview. Keshe, would you like to make some wrap-up statements?
Not really. The only thing I can say is do not give up on contacting your governments in trying to solve the Fukushima, because the Fukushima now affects every man, child, animal, plants on this planet. It's not an exaggeration. This is what exactly is happening, and if you want to actually understand how bad it is, after a few weeks of dry time in your country and the rain, collect the rainwater and measure the amount of radiation in your rainwater on the roof. Then you can imagine how much you have inhaled.
Well, let me just say here, let me say that Dutch Sense has put a new video online. I believe it's on YouTube at this time. He did a measurement of the snow in a state back east. I forget what I think Missouri or Minnesota or something like that. And he has quite high measurements. Some of the radiation has dissipated over time since their very high readings they were getting initially. There are very high readings in other places as well. I think that the point has also been made here that there are nuclear power plants that are leaking, that we are not being told. That
yes,
many
let me tell you, there is one in Eastern Europe which has been wrapped up. There is one which is worse than Chernobyl in the Eastern Bloc, but they cannot open it. We know about it. The radiation on East Europe is very, very high, and it's too far to be from Fukushima, or is not in the same line flow as the Chernobyl. There is a reactor in the eastern, what used to be Russia, now out of control. We know this because the radiations are very high. Not just Americans are in problem, the other side is the same position.
Okay.
I could also point out that just last year, the United States alone had more than 14 events, including Hanford. No, it's not.
The ones you know, these are the
nobody's recording.
Yes, these are the ones we know. San Onofre should be added to that list here in Southern California. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this very important discussion. Keshe, I know that people are asking if you will come back and give us a report. I'm happy to talk to you and bring you online anytime. And
go on Keshe, let me tell you, go on Keshe Foundation forum, www.Keshe Foundation, and go to the forum, KESHE. We
Chernobyl. So 400 Chernobyls is a very conservative title for the article. As I dug into it, it was actually because of the spent fuel ponds. It's more like 4,000 Chernobyls.
Okay, and we are going live right at this moment, so just want to prepare all of you guys and just trying to get the logistics here happening. We have MT Keshe, we've got Richard Allen Miller, Matthew Stein, and Mike Harris. This is a very interesting and momentous occasion, I would say. MT Keshe is an Iranian physicist who has made some very important statements about the work he's doing with his foundation, and he can elaborate more on all of it. But we felt it was important enough to draw this group together. I'm hoping the people that are on the call with us, which Mike Harris does not have a picture, unfortunately. Mike, if you can drag a picture into your Skype, there's a place for a picture, and that would help people to know that you're online with us.
Okay, well, hang on a second. Let me see what I can do.
Okay, very good. And this is still, we're still just in the preliminary stages of getting this conference going, but this is basically about the statements that Keshe has made, and we're very interested in hearing
how our galaxy works. And the combination of this has been releasing of two patents, which has been left with the European International Patent. And we then opened it up that cannot be, what we call it, blocked, but is open to public. This is what we give as a gift to public, to world publication, how to build systems like this and how to be able to do these kind of things. The consequence of further on has been the development of new energy system, which we are delivering this year as a mass production. The work on it actually starts tomorrow for full commercialization. On the other hand, we set up the Keshe Foundation, which is very much a foundation totally geared up to space technology, but space technology without fuel. The way we are used to with propulsion is at this time and it's finished. So through this process, we have launched different initiatives, and a number of countries and organizations, different countries have worked with us to develop or do things on their own way, but with the support of what we could deliver. I have a noise background somewhere, Kerry.
Okay, yes, yes, there is. If everyone who is not talking would do what's called muting your Skype, we do have some people, some movement in the background, and it would be very good because whoever is got that movement going on is interrupting the flow of the conversation. So we would appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, your last statement, Keshe, could you please repeat that?
So, yes, so what has happened that this new technology has led us to do new things, and the Keshe Foundation as a space institute, or a space-based technology, is that we see the responsibility of the foundation to look after every aspect of the interest of human being in the space, be it health, food, energy, motion, materials. And with
okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I have to interrupt one more time. We still have somebody who has their mic open and who is apparently got somebody working around in an area, maybe making noise. It sounds like banging or hammering or something. Does anyone have their mic open? If you could please do what's called muting yourself. Thank you. Go ahead again, please, Keshe.
So Keshe Foundation is literally a space agency, a spaceship, what we call program organization. And we look at every aspect of the need of man in space the way every other space agency does. With the difference that now we use the new understanding of the creation of magnetic gravitational field in a system simultaneously. And this has opened up new opportunities and new insight in the whole world of energy and space and motion. Further on, as a lot of people know, we pushed in through our technology what we call the World Peace Treaty, and delivering of the technology to governments last year through USB sticks with a hidden blueprint, what we call it, designs. And now we were very much tied up with development of non-nuclear energy systems, which we have succeeded earlier, late last year. And as of beginning of this week of the new year, which starts tomorrow for us, we start the pre-production stage, and hopefully the production stage in February, March. So what this has given us is that we have developed new materials, totally new concepts and technologies. Nothing is theoretical. Whatever we deliver, what we speak about, we have systems that we can replicate the process. What has happened in the past 14 days is I've been watching the situation in Fukushima very closely. The same as we watched the situation with Chernobyl. And I offered the Japanese government the support that we have the technology to be able to at least to support or curtail part of this damage. And we received no response in past year, as they haven't responded to anybody else. We are not the only one. So about a couple of weeks ago, through what we understand, is that the Japanese government has, in a very between the what we call the teeth talk, has revealed that they are considering to dilute the millions of gallons of water in the tanks they built on the site with some other material or more water, and then
more about what his plans are, and we'll see where it goes from there. First of all, MT Keshe, would you please talk about your background briefly for people that are not familiar with your work, just to set the stage a bit, and then we can go into whatever areas you would like.
First of all, thank you very much for arranging this talk. Secondly, I'm an Iranian nuclear engineer, physicist. I'm educated in London, part of London University Queen Mary College as a nuclear engineer. The specialty I was trained to be is the reactor system control. And I spent more or less 30 years developing different way to create energy than what was accepted as a nuclear industry at the time. And in early 2000, we reached the point that we could prove gravity is created totally in a different way than what was assumed. We thought we'd never find out what gravity is. And replicating the structure of the entities like Earth or Sun, we have managed to create a system which not only creates magnetic field, what we call magnetic field, which is an atmosphere, and a gravitational field, same as pulling force, in the same system through development of the plasma and opening of the plasma. So this has given us a huge advantage and understanding of how universal systems like a solar system or an atom or a cell